Hello and welcome back to Bison Overtime. I'm Malik Mitchell.
And I'm Mentzel.
And we are back after a long break for 2022 for new episodes.
Welcome to a new year of Ben and another great year of sports coming up.
Yep. So starting off with football, after beating James Madison in the semis game with a crazy defensive stop at the end of the game, NDSU absolutely obliterated Montana State in an FCS championship.
Yes, and it was a crazy sequence of events because we didn't know for sure how easy the road to Frisco was going to be. We had talked about how many good playoff teams there were, and up to that point when we were facing James Madison, we still had to beat James Madison, and then you also had South Dakota State and Montana State on the other side of the bracket, so you knew the road to winning a championship wasn't going to be easy, but they got the job done every step of the way, mostly with the run game and great defense.
Yep, so let's start off with the James Madison game. So going into that game, wide receiver Christian Watson was ruled out with still that hamstring injury, and being that it was a playoff rivalry game, it didn't make the situation any better.
No, and it was definitely going to be tricky, especially against the James Madison defense that was coming into the game, actually very good against the run, and yet that made everybody kind of worried. You know, it's like, we're not going to be able to pass the ball very much without Watson, and are we going to be able to run the ball? Well, it seems like they were able to run the ball, and the thing is with James Madison, too, this was a crazy rivalry going into the game because they have played 4 times in the last 5 seasons in the postseason, so it's definitely a reoccurring theme with these two teams, and this will mark the end of James Madison playing in the FCS as they will be moving up to the FBS next year to play in the Sun Belt Conference.
Yep, so going into that game, NDSU started with a 13-0 lead at half, and then JMU snuck 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, making it 14-13 going into the fourth quarter. And then Hunter Lukey caught that crazy pass from Cam Miller, and they went back up 20-14.
Yeah, and it was definitely a back-and-forth game. It seemed like NDSU was controlling the first half with the run game on offense, and they were shut down defense. But then it seemed like in the second half, JMU was kind of closing in on NDSU's game plan on offense, and then they started getting some things done on offense with their pass game. So it started to become very close towards the end of the game there.
Yep. And then JMU got the ball with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter, drove down the field, and ended up just outside the 5, right? Now it's a 3rd and 6 with 3 minutes left by that time. They snapped the ball. Our D-line did an outstanding job at getting through their O-line. And then, he floats it to a fade that's not even open. Destin Talbert's 101. He jumps, and we have the clip right here too. So just look at our defensive line. Snaps the ball. Javier Dare does a great job putting pressure. He jumps 50 feet in the air and gets that interception. Crazy interception. The dome went crazy.
It's definitely one of the more signature plays now in NDSU's football's historic history, and it was featured in ESPN's top 10 at number 2 for that week, and it was also on Randy Moss's You Got Moss segment on Monday Night Football the following week. So that was definitely a monstrous play, but it was also a huge momentum shifter because JMU had us on the ropes on defense. They were about to get the touchdown to take the lead, and the whole Fargo, there was definitely a tenseness to think that we might lose this game, but nope, that play changed everything.
Yeah, that's by far the best play I've ever seen in the issue, in my lifetime. But like you said, that did do a momentum shift because they got the ball, we stopped them, game over. We ended up coming on top 20-14. Hunter Lukey made a statement in that game, man. He dominated, and I love that he dominates on a big stage like that. I love it.
Yeah, and we had been asking the question all throughout the season, who is the number 1 running back on the roster? Because we have been kind of shifting through running backs back and forth. At the beginning of the season, it seemed to be Ganella. Then through the middle of the season, it was like Tamarick was taking most of the snaps and Kobe Johnson. But now it seems to me that Hunter Lukey has kind of taken the reins as the number 1 running back. Now, granted, that still could be the teams we play against, the kind of run game that we want to play, but still, Lukey's definitely deserved that number 1 spot from the way he's performed. And speaking of his performance, some of the stats for the JMU game, Cam Miller had a good job at quarterback for that game, 10 of 19 for 165 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Hunter Lukey dominating in the run and pass game, 19 rushes for 110 yards and 3 receptions for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns, being the leading rusher and receiver in the game.
Yep, he was doing everything in that game, and I'm glad that he's coming back, so we'll definitely have that leadership role on offense, and we still got that same dog.
Yeah, this team definitely has plenty of guys returning for next year, and this will be a very dangerous team considering all the guys that are coming back next year. But we'll get more on that later.
Yep, and then moving on to the championship game against Montana State, Hunter Luque again made a statement, rushing for 82 yards with 3 touchdowns. I mean, trucking dudes out of the way. And even Kobe Johnson got in that mix. He got a 76-yard rushing touchdowns along that sideline.
Kobe Johnson has definitely seemed to be the big run threat. Whereas, you hand him the ball, occasionally he's going to break a big one. He had the 97-yarder earlier this year against Indiana State, and now he has the 75-yarder in the championship game. So it's definitely seems that he's that big run type of guy.
Yep, and Chris Watson also started that game. Probably didn't play how he wanted to. He couldn't really cut. The grass, it rained. The grass was terrible. But, good to see him play one last time.
Nobody was really going to get a passing game going in that game. The weather had been not so favorable the last few days before that game. They didn't cover the field with a tarp either, so the field conditions were not great at all. So NDSU knew going into that game that they were going to have to run the ball more than pass it. And that, I think, was fine because, Christian was probably not 100% anyway. He still had a few receptions in the game, and like you said, it was great to see him be able to play one last time and get that championship again.
Yep, it was just so funny. Everybody thought it was going to be a dogfight, and then we just start blowing them out. They kept putting it on the Montana State's fans, and they're just sad with the helmet on. It's just, the memes were just hilarious.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, for Montana State, and you had to wonder, though, something that I don't know if many think about. Tommy Milliot, Montana State's great freshman quarterback, who has done a great job throughout the entire playoffs, got hurt on their first drive. Yeah. And it makes you wonder, if he was in the game, could they have made the game at least a little bit closer? I think it probably could have, because he definitely had an elusiveness in the run and play action pass game.
Definitely. When he got hurt, it seemed like they didn't know what to do. They put in a quarterback. He wasn't really getting any clicking. Then they switched. It was just it looked like they were going with whoever had the hot hand for the backups.
Yeah, and when you have to start your third string quarterback from the beginning of the season in the championship game, it's usually not going to be bode too well for you.
And I'm not gonna lie, I felt really bad when he got hurt because he cried in the semis game because he was going to the championship, and to go in that game dreaming about winning a championship, then you get hurt the first drive, that's got to be devastating.
Well, his story has been crazy, too. Montana State's starting quarterback from the regular season actually transferred before the postseason, so his first career start came in the first round of the playoffs. So it's kind of crazy to think about how he was able to carry this team as an 8-seeded team through the playoffs all the way to Frisco. And just to see him get hurt that quickly, it's very unfortunate for him.
But at the end of the day, we beat them 38-10, winning our 9th FCS championship, the most in FCS history.
Yep, and some of the stats for that game: Cam Miller, 9 of 13, 126 yards and a touchdown through the air. For rushing, Kobe Johnson was actually the leading rusher. 4 rushes for 106 yards and a touchdown. Another guy that we haven't really talked about, though, which I think we need to talk about after this, Quincy Patterson, 11 rushes for 98 yards. And Hunter Luque, the MVP of the game, 14 rushes, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns.
Not a surprise.
And then also for receiving, not a lot of it, but there's still some stats. Christian Watson, 4 receptions for 61 yards. Josh Babbitt's 2 receptions for 48 yards, and a touchdown in his final game. And Raja Nelson, 1 reception for 8 yards.
Yeah, so, we just... It was just a blowout. It was just crazy. We just had the hot hand, and our energy was off the roof, too.
Yeah, it was definitely, our energy was off the roof. They say we drink Frisco dry every year. I think it was no different this time around. I think the fans were about 65 to 35% in the stands to North Dakota State. So it's almost like a home game every time they go down there.
And I'm glad that we got a championship, so we can shut up UND and we can shut up the
SDSU.
SDSU, and even last season when we didn't get it, we're overrated. It just proves a point that we're still NDSU.
Everybody thought at the end of the last season that this might have been the end of the dynasty that was North Dakota State. We didn't know where we were going to go after this year with the quarterback carousel. And granted, even though we did kind of have a quarterback carousel in the middle of the season this year, it still didn't stop the crushing defense, the explosive run game, and the passing game was there when we needed it as well.
And I think our spirits were still high. Like, we were hungry this season, and it's probably because, like we said, last season they know that they can get beat. So this season it just made them hungry again.
Yes, and I think we'll expect more of the same next year with, like we said, we got a lot of guys coming back. Jackson Hankey might be gone on the defense. It's a big leadership role. And we're probably losing Christian Watson and Cordell Volson. But I think we're getting a lot of guys back, and this team will come back stronger than ever next year.
Yep, so you guys definitely got to tune in next season. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into men's and women's basketball. Stay tuned.
Founded in 1985, the Missouri Valley Football Conference has established a tradition of FCS football excellence. Competing at the highest level of NCAA Division I, student-athletes at its 10 institutions demonstrate character, passion, and integrity as they grow as a student, an athlete, and a citizen. The Missouri Valley Football Conference, where leaders are shaped and champions are forged.
No kid deserves to go hungry, but try as they might, not every family can afford to put food on the table every day. That's why the Great Plains Food Bank and their partner agencies work every day to bring food to our hungry neighbors. Every dollar donated can provide 4 meals for those in need. Go to greatplainsfoodbank.org and donate today so no kid in North Dakota ever has to go hungry.
And we're back. Now we're going to get into men's and women's basketball. So this previous Saturday, the men's played Western Illinois and unfortunately lost 79-90. You know, it was a crazy game. Emotional roller coaster is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, Western Illinois has kind of had an unexpectedly great season so far, and I'm not sure if NDSU was ready for that. Western Illinois has surprised quite a few opponents, and NDSU, I don't think they were quite mentally prepared for Western Illinois bringing in what they had.
Yep, and we were already, kind of like in the drought because Ford Grant Nelson and Andrew Morgan were both injured, so we have no big man. And Western Illinois is definitely a competitor, and they took it to us. They knew they took advantage of what we lacked, and they just applied it. And we would help on the paint, right? And then once they saw that, they shot lights out from the three.
Yeah, and like you said with injuries, it hurts a lot, especially when it's similar players going down. Like you said, both Nelson and Morgan, both very big players on this team, and in terms of size and skill as well.
Yep.
But yeah, it definitely hurts when you lose 2 of them like that back to back, and now you're kind of undermanned against a team like that.
Yep. So at half, the Bison were actually down 14 points, and then in the second half, those boys really fought hard to come back. Just crazy plays, trying to get the momentum. In the beginning, it seemed like they couldn't get a shot to drop after a while, but these boys really fought hard to come back. There you go with Malik Hayes getting a 3, which is, he's improving at the 3.
Yeah, and he's also been improving in the dunk section, which we will see in just a second here. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of players who have been improving from the 3, and they've been doing a great job this entire season with those. Yep.
And I'm glad in this even though when it's a tough game, we can still, try to manage not to get blown out. Still try to hang in there, at least come back, and the Shield Center really helps us get us our momentum back.
Yes, and the team has the talent to hang in most games, and they definitely will never get blown out. They'll never be a team that goes down and goes away forever.
Yep, the Malik Hayes had a crazy dunk that really and that tied the game up. And you talk about momentum. Rocky getting these crucial free throws to tie it up and to go into overtime. And then overtime, it just was bad for us. We got only 2 points and they scored 13. We just couldn't get anything to drop.
And those 2 points came within the waning seconds of overtime anyway. And yeah, it was definitely strange how the momentum just seemed to go away. You think they would have it heading into overtime. They tied up the game after being down by 14. It kind of reminds you almost of the game against Oral Roberts in the Summit League tournament last year, where we were down big at halftime, came all the way back, had the entire momentum for the second half of the game, and then for some reason it just vanishes at the end.
Yep, so Rocky Cruiser had 19 points with 7 rebounds.
Tyree Edey had 15 points with 5 rebounds and 3 assists, and Jarius Cook had 4 rebounds.
And then yesterday they played Kansas City and got another devastating loss. They lost, 80-77. See, that was a close game, and it's just sad that they got another loss. You never want to do 2 losses in a row. You never want that.
Especially against, Kansas City, who's not exactly a top team in the conference. I mean, they're not the worst team, but they're kind of middle hanging around, and we were a team that was predicted to be up towards the top, and it kind of hurts to lose these close games. And once again, we're never out of it, but at the same time, there's some of these games where it's like we shouldn't be putting ourselves in this position in the first place.
Yeah, Rocket Cruiser ended up, he actually had a good game. He scored 27 points with 8 rebounds. So the hustle was there.
Yeah, and another player who had a great game as well, Sam Griesel, he had 23 points with 7 rebounds.
So I guess it just came down to who wanted it more at the end.
Yeah, and maybe that's just it's kind of been a recurring problem for NESU. We talked about the Western Illinois game. In overtime, it seemed like the energy just vanished for some reason, and it kind of seemed the same way in the Kansas City game.
Yep. So they're now 11-7 overall, but 3-3 in the conference. Their next game. Actually, speaking of the conference, you got some.
NESU is currently 4th in the Summit League Conference. South Dakota State taking the number 1 spot because they are undefeated in the conference at 7-0. Yep. Oral Roberts is 2nd right now at 7-1 in the conference, and then Western Illinois, of all teams, the surprise team right now, they are 3rd. 3-3 in the conference right now. And the conference isn't lining up how most people expected it. A lot of people probably predicted it to be South Dakota State, and North Dakota State being up at the top. But, yes, while SDSU has been proving everybody right, it's just been crazy for the rest of the conference.
Yep. And Western Illinois is a real competitor, and I think it's going to be a crazy sight in the future schedule because, that number 5, their point guard, he's really good. He was really taking us to us. I think he ended up with like 26 points that game. So, we do have some real, competition this season, but they are now 11-7. 3-3 in the conference. Their next game is against Oral Roberts in Tulsa, Oklahoma at 7 p.m. Oral Roberts is 13-6 in overall and 7-1 in the conference so far this season. So they're a competitor.
Yep, and this is a big game for them as well. They need to try to keep up with South Dakota State to keep that number 1 or get a chance for that number 1 spot in the conference right now. This is a big game for North Dakota State too, because there's not a lot of leniency between 3rd and 6th. Everybody's 3-3 right now in that zone. So one loss could drop you all the way back to 6th or 7th in the conference.
Yep, it's going to be a tough matchup. And last season they had multiple battles that I loved it, and I can't wait to see this game. Switching gears to women's basketball, they also played Kansas City yesterday and lost 62-67. So both teams lost. With the girls, it seems like it's a copy and paste from last season.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's something that we had talked about, last year at the end of the year, in November and December. They play close all the time. It's just they can't ever get over the top. And not to say that that's anything bad. I mean, they're giving it their all in all these games. It's not enough, unfortunately, sometimes.
Yeah, Brian Cobbins ended up with 17 points and 4 rebounds and 3 assists.
Emily Dietz had 17 points with 9 rebounds. Katie Hildebrandt had 9 points, and the women's team is currently ranked 7th in the Summit League Conference. So they're kind of right on the boundaries of missing the tournament entirely.
Yep. You got to be top 8, and how we're going, it looks like we might not make it. What do you think?
I don't know. It's definitely weird. These next few months up till March are definitely going to prove where this team will land. If they can at least make a tournament spot, I have no doubt in my mind that they could beat any team in the tournament because they stay strong no matter who they're playing. It's just unfortunately they don't quite have that extra oomph to get over the top of everybody else, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's definitely the oomph. I like that. It's definitely they don't have the oomph. But they are now 7-11 overall and 3-5 in the Summit League Conference. Hopefully they can turn that around and be a competitor and get in the Summit League tournament.
Yeah, and like I said, we'll have to see. These next few months are going to be very crucial to this team. We have some tough opponents coming up, and we got 2 teams right now for the women, South Dakota and South Dakota State, who have been nationally ranked at points, and it's not going to be easy for them at all.
Yep. So tomorrow they play Oral Roberts at 1 p.m. Oral Roberts, it's 9-9 overall and 4-3 in the conference. First time playing each other this season. I think to me they're beatable.
Yes, this is a very winnable game for NDSU. Oral Roberts is not a bad team by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a team that North Dakota State could definitely match up against and beat. And we'll have to see in that game, but I think NESU could get the job done.
Yep. So make sure you guys tune into that game. When we come back, we're going to get into track and field, wrestling, and a dive in NFL playoffs. Stay tuned.
Technology Learning and Media Center, located in the Quinton Burdick Building, room 150C, provides a variety of services to assist you with all of your technology-related coursework and personal learning goals. The TLMC offers one-on-one tutoring and assistance in topics ranging from basic computer skills to advanced topics such as design, Adobe products, and multimedia software. A resource library that includes books on the latest software releases, online resources including a lynda.com kiosk that provide free access to high-quality video tutorials on hundreds of topics, free workshops on a variety of topics taught each semester by our student staff, software and hardware for audio and video capture, conversion, and editing, plus personal assistance on your multimedia projects. Multiple scanners are available at the TLMC, including one large format scanner and a slide and film scanner. The Wacom tablet provides ultimate control in your favorite graphics and illustration software and can help you to create stunning digital artwork. Large format poster printing is also done at the TLMC. Our walk-in media resources include the Whisper Room sound booth for recording professional quality voiceovers and audio. The TLMC Media Studio is available by reservation and provides equipment and space for video recording, audio recording, studio photography, screen capture, and a green screen for special effects. If you have any questions on these services, be sure to visit the TLMC website, and while you're there you can check out a variety of learning and media resources, or just stop by the next time you're in the Quinton Burdick Building and check out what we have to offer.
Welcome back. We have a couple updates to end the show. We're going to start off with track and field. So both teams had a meet for the Bison Team Cup at the Shelley E. Lig indoor track. You know, we did pretty good.
Yeah. And as usual, I mean, every time we seem to talk about track, we ended up having a giant list of first place in track and field.
Right. It kind of gets exhausting to say all of them, but we're going to dive right in it. Sophomore Trent Davis won the 60-meter hurdles with his personal best, finishing with 8.03 seconds, and he is now 7th all-time in NDSU.
Kelby Anderson took the mile title in 4 minutes and 56 seconds, ranking 41st on the early NCAA performance list for the season.
Yep, and then another sophomore, Dante White, got his personal best after winning the 600-meter dash, finishing with 6.8 seconds. And he is now tied with 8th in NDSU history.
Sophomore Nell Graham won the 400-meter dash in 56.77 seconds as the Bison women swept the top 3 places in that event.
NDSU swept the top 4 places in 400-meter dash. Jacob Roden was leading that pack. He finished with 48.71 seconds. That's crazy.
The Bison senior and returning All-American Amy Harrington won the weight throw with a toss of 19.85 meters, and NDSU senior Amanda Anderson took first in the shot put with 14.92 meters.
And then sophomore Jackson Tracy won the 800-meter in 1 minute and 57 seconds.
Sophomore Bonnet Henderson won the women's 60-meter dash, running 7.79 in the final. Christina Collins won the 200-meter dash with a personal best of 25.1 seconds.
And then senior Trevor Otterdahl took first place in weight throw with 21.79 meters, and he also won shot throwing with 18.33 meters. He now ranks 5th in the NCAA this season. So
Grace Emineth won the long jump with a mark of 5.64 meters, and Alyssa Melvin took first place in the triple jump with a mark of 11.45 meters.
And then sophomore Hunter Merkley took the title for the long jump after leaping 6.94 meters.
Deja Moss claimed the high jump crown, clearing 1.68 meters.
And then last freshman Braden Brown won the high jump, clearing 2.04 meters. Their next meet is in Brookings, South Dakota for the Jim Emmerich Invite at 12:30 p.m. So be there to support them.
Yeah, and we'll see how they do. You know, every meet so far, the first 2 meets, we've had a lot of, you know, as we've shown, a lot of first place. And those are only the first place. So there are a lot of seconds and thirds as well. Yep. So it's definitely something to watch.
Okay, switching to wrestling. This previous Sunday, they had a meet at the University of Wyoming. In Wyoming, they got the victory, winning 22-14.
Yep, and so far this season, Jared Franek is 15-1 overall, Owen Pence is 11-4, and Luke Weber 13-3. So a lot of great individual performances so far this season.
Yep, and then as a team, they are now 6-1 overall and 1-1 in the Big 12 Conference. Their next meet is tomorrow against Northern Iowa in Cedar Falls, Iowa.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy. You know, you said they're 6-1 so far as a team. Their only loss as a team so far was the 3rd-ranked nationally, Missouri. So that kind of shows you how good this team has been so far.
Yep. And then switching gears to NFL. I love it. You know, my team went out on a sad note, the Cowboys. that still hurts. But, you know, your Packers are still in. But, you know, the NFL playoffs for the division round is on Saturday and Sunday. We got the Bengals taking the Titans. Then we got the 49ers and the Packers. Then we got the Rams and the Bucks. Then we got the Bills versus Chiefs. Who you got?
So for the first game on Saturday in the afternoon, the Bengals and the Titans. The Bengals finally snapping that 31-year playoff drought without a playoff victory.
Yep.
That revives the city with that kind of drought being finally beaten. And the Tennessee Titans, they're getting Derrick Henry back, who was thought to be lost for the season after having foot surgery, but he will be coming back. So this is going to be a very interesting matchup with two teams who I'm not sure many people thought were going to be in the position to get to the AFC Championship at the beginning of the year. But for this game, I think it's going to come down more to explosive offense. And when I see that, I see Cincinnati. They have an exciting offense with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They also have receivers like Higgins, Tyler Boyd as well. So this will be an exciting offense, and I think they're going to get the job done. I think Derrick Henry will do something, but just not enough for the Titans to win. I think the Bengals are going to win that game.
Oh, wow, we're in a total end of the spectrum. I'm taking the Titans over the Bengals just because of the experience, and Derrick Henry would definitely. Just believe me, he's going to go off that game. You know, he's been sitting out, and it's the playoffs. You gotta play up to par. But yeah, I do like the Bengals. I love the momentum that they have. That dangerous duo with Burrow and Chase. I love it.
Yeah, and the Titans do have that home field advantage, so I can definitely see why you would pick Tennessee in this game as well.
Yep, and then I'm going to take the Packers over the 49ers. You know, you're Packers. I know you're happy they're in it, but, you know, Aaron Rodgers has been looking good all season. They have a dangerous offense. I love Devontae Adams. That's probably a receiver's dream to run him that way, but that's what I'm taking.
It's the last dance, and you love both of those players, but more than likely for Green Bay, both of those guys are gone after this year. Yep. And it makes me very nervous as a Packers fan heading into this game against a familiar opponent, the San Francisco 49ers, a team that knocked us out of the playoffs 2 years ago. And the last 4 times that we played each other in the playoffs, it's been San Francisco coming out the victor.
Yep.
And one thing that makes me nervous as a Packers fan for San Francisco, Deebo Samuel, he has been the Swiss Army knife of that offense. He can run the ball, he can catch the ball, he can even throw the ball. He threw against the Cowboys. So it's going to be very interesting. But I think Green Bay, with that home field advantage, is going to be like 5 degrees at kickoff in Lambeau. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure if San Francisco is ready for that. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Garoppolo has never won a game under 40 degrees in temperature at kickoff. So I think Green Bay will get the job done and host the NFC Championship game.
And then the Rams and the Bucks. To me, this is a hard one because the Rams are looking good. They definitely had their way against the Cardinals. I love the I love the Rams defense. I love the mix of Aaron Donald, Von Miller, and the Jalen Ramsey. But I learned a long time ago, never bet against Brady.
Yep, and unfortunately, I got to follow the same philosophy as that. And, it's going to be very close. I feel like either team could easily win the same. Matthew Stafford finally won his first playoff game in his career. But, yeah, I don't know. The Bucs have that home field advantage, and I'm not sure if the Rams can topple over that. So I'm gonna go Tampa Bay, unfortunately, and it'll be a rematch.
Yeah, I'm going with Tampa too. And then I'm gonna go with the Chiefs over the Bills. Pat Mahomes, that's all I gotta say. He's a true competitor. I don't think he's gonna let that game slip away.
I don't know. Kansas City for me has been very, very inconsistent all season, especially early in the year. They were not good at the beginning of the year. They started out 3-4, and we started to wonder if maybe this was just a fluke that how good they were these last few years. But honestly, I'm going to go Buffalo in this game because Buffalo dominated Kansas City earlier this year in Arrowhead, and Buffalo had a crushing, a dominating victory over New England, probably their biggest monster in the last 20 years. They beat their demons in Bill Belichick. So, it makes you wonder, are the Bills the true contender this year? And if they can go into Arrowhead and beat Kansas City, I believe they will go to the Super Bowl for the AFC this year.
Bills definitely have a lot of eyes going into the season, but you guys definitely got to tune in this weekend. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Bison Overtime. Go Bison.